Alright everyone, welcome to the After Hours Gaming League. We have our first week going on, and here we have Epic versus Microsoft. I believe Microsoft is on the left side?
That is correct.
And Epic is on the right side. So we have picks and bans going to take place in the chat room so that we don't have to remake the game. So, Sotere, I know you were excited about these picks and bans, so why don't you run them over for us?
Oh my goodness, I'm incredibly excited about them. We actually have Epic banning Nunu, Zed, Kassadin out. Microsoft, meanwhile, banning Misfortune, Zyra, and Eve. And they're all essentially targeted bans. Of course, they're good bans in general, but you don't always see a Kassadin ban or a Nunu ban or an MF ban. But apparently these teams have been doing their research. And right before this game, I actually saw, I believe it was Epic practicing out Eve against the Kassadin matchup, so they decided to ban the Kassadin, but unfortunately the counterpart, the Evelyn practice, is not going to really do much good for them because it is now banned out as well. And we do see the first pick coming down here, and the first pick is going to Epic, and I'll let you go with that, Brian, because I know how excited you get.
Yeah, the first pick is a Moo, probably going to go in the jungle, and the next two picks actually come out very quickly compared to the bans. Sona and Olaf picked for Microsoft. So Sona likely going to go in the support role, and Olaf could go jungle and could go top lane.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I've learned from the Microsoft team, they really favor a Kate Nunu bottom lane, and that is why the Nunu was banned out by Epic. And now they're going instead with Sona. Silent J, I believe, will be the support coming from Microsoft, and Nighttime will be the top laner, most likely picking up that Olaf top, as that is one of his mains, along with Zed, who was banned out.
Yep, the next two picks come out for Epic, Ezreal, and Shen being picked up. So some of these targeted bans mean that some of the more common general bans weren't banned out, such as Shen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know anyone on Epic that has a lot of experience on Shen, but he's kind of that champion that you don't get to play very often because he's normally banned, but when he's not banned, you feel obligated to take him because he has so much utility, especially in an organized team setting.
Yeah, and we'll see how they are able to use that Shen, if they use him for a lot of split pushing, if they use him in the mid game for his ultimate, preferably both, but we'll see how well they use his utility.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't know where he's going to go, jungle or in the top lane. Both could be likely.
Yeah, the one thing about doing picks and bans in the chat room rather than in the actual game setting, the lobby, is that we don't have a timer, so I mean, we probably want to tell them to speed things up if they take too long, but I mean, they've been pretty good about being prompt about these picks so far, so we'll see how it goes. Right,
and now they're coming down with it. What kind of composition are they going to really form with their team? Amumu and Ezreal have really nice synergy in the sense that they can line up their AoE ultimates. Amumu can lock a bunch of people down and make sure that True Shot Barrage will land on a lot of people, which will give Ezreal not only the damage output, but will add up stacks of his passive, so he'll attack faster throughout the fight. But are they going to continue with kind of an AoE-centric team, or will they break away from that? On the opposing side, we do see Nighttime picking up Malphite and Caitlyn. Epic, that is, was practicing or rather Microsoft was practicing earlier, and I believe they actually were practicing with Bertrand Reynolds on Malphite in the jungle, so that is likely where he will go. Olaf most likely heading towards the top, and Caitlyn, as I mentioned earlier, the preferred AD carry for Microsoft, and will be paired up with that Sona in the bottom lane for a lot of poke.
Yeah, I mean, Caitlyn is the quintessential poke AD carry, and Sona might be the quintessential poke support, so a lot of poke damage going to come out. Ezreal does not have a support champion yet, so we'll see what Epic decides to answer with there.
Yeah, and we did see the ban from Microsoft of Zyra, and that is the preferred support of Edric Chaos from Team Epic. They love Zyra, they like Nunu. I imagine they might fall back into a Lulu pick, as that is their third most played support champion, and it's a pretty good matchup with Ezreal. Gives him some nice poke, gives him some defense that he can really use, and gives him extra engaging capabilities, both for him and for his team, through the use of Whimsy. So we are waiting on these final couple of picks, and most interestingly, who will be supporting that Ezreal in that bottom lane?
Yeah, and I mean, if it is indeed a Lulu, it could work well with the team because there's an Amumu that can go in. That can Amumu can just use the ultimate, and when that runs out, Lulu can use her wild growth to knock people up right after. So it can get some chain CC going on there.
Yeah, I love that combination, especially because if Amumu does get behind, the strategy is to just kill him and kill him as fast as you can. And when he dies, that Curse of the Sad Mummy will no longer lock people down. So certainly that wild growth will allow him to stay alive longer in the back lines and keep in distance with everyone. But we're seeing some interesting pickups here. I like them. The middle for Epic will be Orianna, and the support is going to be Nami, a champion we have not seen much of thanks to her relative newness or recent addition to the league. But she is an interesting champion. I don't know how much you've had a chance to play with her or play against her.
I mean, I haven't played with her much, but I mean, I didn't really like her as much. But I mean, with this team comp, it could work very well because if Amumu keeps them locked down enough for Nami's ult to come over and do her CC as well, it could work out very well, especially with Orianna bunching everybody up together.
Yeah, they have a great wombo combo. They're going to have that wave coming on through, that Amumu, Curse of the Sad Mummy, and just a lot of things going for them. A lot of line ultimates and AoE ultimates all combining together. So we'll see if they can line them up enough to really change the course of a team fight, because after that, that's where Nami especially falls off. Orianna has good consistent damage, as does Amumu and Ezreal, but certainly Nami has her ultimate SCC, and then she has her Q, her little bubble, but that's on a relatively high cooldown, I believe like 10 to 12 seconds, and it is skill shot, so if she misses that, she doesn't have too much left in her back pocket. And we do see the final pick. It's going to be an Anivia versus Orianna in that middle.
So one thing about that bot lane is going to be Ezreal Nami versus the Sona and Caitlyn. And Nami, one of the main things that I didn't like about Nami was her range, and she is quite squishy in that bottom lane. So we'll see how well Sona and Caitlyn manage to poke her down and prevent her from being a big factor in the bot lane.
Indeed, indeed. And our teams are going to take a short little break here to run up to the little boys and girls room, but they will be back, and then it gives us a more of an option to talk over their picks and bans here. Certainly, I like Nami's laning presence just because she has that sustain, but against Sona, someone who can poke so well and so easily, is she really going to be able to maintain? Because I just don't feel like her poke at that range, as you mentioned, is as good as it otherwise could be against a shorter range lane like a Corki, a Graves, and Ezreal, for instance. But is she going to be able to get up to that Caitlyn? Is she going to be able to poke out that Sona? I hesitate to say that it'll be an easy job down there in the bottom lane, but I'm eager to be proven wrong by Epic's team.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, if she can manage to get a bubble, say, on Sona, with maybe a jungle gank going on, that could mean they could, quite possibly burst down Sona very quickly. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes down the bottom lane. I mean, of course, we're obviously interested in the support battle because we both main supports, but, I mean, the other lanes are interesting as well.
Yes, they are very interesting. I mean, Orianna versus Anivia should be mainly a farm lane, would be how I imagine it. And Shen versus Olaf is a little bit of the same. Two characters that actually can get through the game by building full tank and still have relevance throughout the entirety of the game. With Shen, you might want to pick up an offensive item such as a Wit's End or even a Trinity Force that we've seen Moscow 5 do repeatedly. Darien for Moscow 5 does do that, and it's really devastating. But in general, you can build Sunfire, Randuin's Omen, Warmogs on both of those champions and just be happy to be the main tank of your team and provide decent base damage along with utility. Olaf, of course, has his axes to create a permanent slowing effect, and he has his true damage from reckless swings, whereas Shen has his taunt and just decent damage overall to keep the pressure on the opposing AD carries. I mean, we do have kind of an interesting and good dive combination from both teams. Malphite Olaf and Amumu Shen are both really scary combinations for the opposing AD carry to look at. So it might come down to which AD carry is going to be more slippery as the game goes on, which one has better positioning, and who has better escapes. Generally, Ezreal considered the best AD carry at escaping those tight situations, but Caitlyn has a lot of advantages as well. She has a good escape in addition to those traps, which can really help her keep distance from her and the enemy team.
Yeah, and I mean, this is... oh, one thing that I wanted to mention, sorry, is that sometimes people like running that Sunfire Cape on Shen. It is a tanky item, but it also does help him push lanes, and if you're going to do that late game split push with Shen, that can be really helpful.
Yeah, and I mean, it is Season 3. It'll be interesting to see whether we see any new items picked up, whether it's in the support role or Shen, whether he picks up that Hydra, Tiamat, going into that. I like that build. I mean, I think it is actually viable, helps him really push, and might be the choice over, Wit's End, for instance. Of course, Starks doesn't do what it did, or doesn't do anything at all. So he's kind of taken, he had that option taken away from him. So his pushing power is limited unless he's willing to go into the Tiamat build, which means he might be losing out on some other stats, and it's an incredibly expensive item to upgrade it all the way through. So really tough call there. They might have to, focus their strategy around him if he wants to do that, but then he'll be losing out on some teamfight presence, potentially.
Yeah, so I think we're just waiting for them to get done with their bathroom breaks before we get started. We will still have our 3-minute delay before we actually get into the game, because we haven't actually gone in the game yet. So
yes, well, we'll take those moments to go through the runes and masteries and whatnot, see if there's anything exciting going on there. Just looking at the elo of the teams, it does seem like Microsoft has kind of the advantage offhand, but actually, I think I might just be bugged, as I'm actually not getting readings on 4 of the members from Team Epic. I don't know if that's the same for you.
Yeah, I only see 3 people with ratings on my screen.
So that is actually just a bug from Riot, so you can actually get a great reading on them. And I have heard offhand that Epic has the higher ratings overall. And we are finally into the picks and bans. We're just going to get some random picks out and random bans out, hopefully to make this go quickly. I believe everyone is here, and the bans are coming out. Ari, Karma, people who were not banned, but who also were not picked.
Yep, so Akali also being banned out. Looks like they're just going for the A names that weren't picked. Yeah, except for Karma, but mostly just A names. Hopefully they don't forget about the other team's picks and accidentally ban somebody out. But looks like we're doing just fine here.
It's always a frightening moment as a caster. You're like, okay, we definitely want to get this game going along. We don't want anyone to troll the enemy team. And we actually do finally see a Kassadin ban, and Kassadin was in fact banned. Now the teams are going out, just picking up their champions, and I'll go ahead and look through the runes, see if we find anything intriguing for these champions.
Well, I mean, right now they haven't locked in their runes yet, so we're not sure if those are the runes that they're going to run. But
that is very true, but they should all be picking up their actual champions. I say that, and so far, very, very standard selections as far as runes go for the first three selections here. So I will certainly update you, Zero, if I do find anything out of the ordinary. We do see a split of magic resist per level and magic resist runes for glyphs on the anomaly, but that's not too unusual. It's something you definitely want to pick up against a Sona who's going to be very aggressive early on in lane.
So just looking at these runes, we're still waiting for. Yep. Okay. He was taking a while to actually lock in his picks, so I was wondering what was going on, but we are getting going here. We have these picks coming out. In terms of summoner spells, if they do decide to keep it, looks like Caitlyn is going to go with a barrier.
I mean, I certainly like that pickup, but against most teams, Cleanse is really the superior late game choice. I do say that Amumu has some lockdown. Shen has quite a bit of. He has his taunt to lock her down. But I guess she's banking on the fact maybe they just won't be able to do enough damage to her throughout the course of a team fight, and that extra, shield she gets from barrier will be the difference maker. So certainly a, steady choice, a great choice. We're actually seeing some revive teleport. I think we might be getting trolled. But Nighttime also not locked in, but he was running a mass armor pen page. I would be really interested to see if he sticks with that page on Olaf, just straight armor pen, and then we might see a more aggressive Olaf build as well. We could see him go straight into Black Cleaver, for instance. I have seen that. The general, strategy on Olaf is to build straight tanky, rely on cooldown reduction and his base damage, but you can also build him more damage-oriented with that Black Cleaver and just have your axes do a lot of damage.
Yep, so we have about 3 minutes and 30 seconds before we get into game. We'll see if these summoner spells are indeed locked in. Olaf is showing right now the Teleport and Ignite. So it's an interesting combination of summoner spells to choose for that top lane.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, and it means you're not incredibly afraid of ganks. Olaf, of course, has great escaping potential at level 6 because he can pop that Ragnarok and just run away and be immune to any CC. But up until that point, he's obviously going to be, very vulnerable to any ganks if he sticks with those.
Yep, and looks like he is going to indeed stick with those unless he changes at the last second, which he does. And yeah, actually, Caitlyn going with the cleanse instead of barrier, so looks like she's going to have a way to get out of the Amumu ult or the Shen taunt if she does get CC'd by those.
Right, and there's also the bandage toss to be worried about, and of course, I think one of the big advantages of cleanse in a laning fight is the fact that you can just cleanse immediately any exhaust that's put down on you, and hopefully the enemy team exhausts you and ignites you simultaneously, in which case you can clear both effects out with that cleanse and really come out ahead of a duel. But a good pickup there. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about barrier. I love that spell as well. It's just it's relying on the enemy team not having enough damage to finish you off, whereas cleanse allows you to keep on outputting damage and get away from that CC and hopefully avoid some damage yourself. So we are locked in on the runes. As I mentioned beforehand, not too many big surprises except Olaf with that 19 armor pen. That is a very, very aggressive page. We do see Idric Chaos running 5 GP10, whereas on the other side we have Sona running only 3 gold per 10 runes, which means she's going to have a little bit more beefiness in the armor department, which is something Sona certainly needs, as she is one of the squishiest, or actually she is the squishiest champion in those earlier levels.
Yep. At the same time, though, Nami is a fairly squishy champion as well, so we'll see how these two. We'll see how the bottom lane turns out in general. One thing is, we're gonna see the Olaf gonna pop his ghost in team fights. He's gonna pop his ghost, gonna pop his Ragnarok, and just run straight for the AD carry. And one of the ways to try to stop that is, for example, an Anivia, but the Anivia is on his team, so.
Well, hopefully Anivia doesn't stop Olaf.
Yeah.
I think that would go, completely counter to the team composition that Microsoft has lined up here. And they do have a pretty scary one, because the two most frightening champions for me when I want to play an AD carry are Malphite and Olaf. Olaf because you can't stop him, and Malphite because he just does so much base damage if he lands that ultimate on you, and he gets that ground slam to immediately follow up, meaning you're not going to be attacking very fast throughout the course of a fight. Now, if there's any AD that is good at avoiding Malphite, it would be Ezreal. He can blink away with that Arcane Shift, and he can just position himself appropriately. And sometimes, discretion is the better part of valor, and you can just stay in the back as Ezreal or as any AD carry. Wait for the team fight to begin, but make sure you're not caught in the crescendo. Make sure you're not caught in that unstoppable force from Malphite, and really just kind of do a little bit of poke damage, use Mystic Shot, use True Shot Barrage, but don't get into the heat of the battle until a lot of those summoners or those cooldowns have been blown. I think that's certainly a good strategy, and might be a strategy the Anomaly takes here, because it would certainly suit him well to not be caught in that CC, as he does not have the cleanse that Caitlyn does.
Yeah, and I mean, you did mention that Caitlyn does have that trap to escape a little bit, but Ezreal's escape is probably the best escape because it is a blink. It doesn't, you don't have to move anywhere. It's instantaneous, or nearly instantaneous, but it's a very good escape. It can do a very good job of escaping things like Malphite.
And we do load into the screens, so we have the Battle of Skins here, and only one skin coming down with the Anomaly for Epic, but it is a Pulsefire Ezreal. On the opposing side, 3 skins for Microsoft, so clearly Microsoft with the early advantage. Their borders are not, well, they're very colorful, a lot of gold, but unfortunately in League of Legends, gold is not first place.
Well, I mean, I do have a gripe with these borders, is that people seem to judge you based on your Season 2, border, and I don't think that's entirely fair.
I think it's completely accurate.
Well, that's because your border is
pretty
nice and shiny.
It is. I mean, it's hard to tell the difference between the silver, diamond, and platinum, but I do have to sometimes point out, there's a little gem in the top corner of the really good players' login screens or their borders. We are seeing just defensive positionings from both teams. Obviously, both of these junglers are very blue reliant. As far as level 1 fights go, they're kind of evenly matched in the sense that they have some weak champions i.e. Malphite and Amumu, and some stronger ones for these level 1 battles. But we do see purple side, Anomaly and Epic, Anomaly I believe is their team captain, moving into the enemy's jungle, have warded up those wraiths. So this is a kind of a surprising early aggressive move from Epic.
Yeah, this ward, wait, let me see. Is it the Explorer's ward? I believe so. Is it?
Should be.
Nami does not have the. Nami doesn't have the Explorer's ward in her inventory.
Yeah, when you're in game, it's very easy to see as they have the counting down timer. But here we would just have to go by the bar. They both look like they're counting down way too fast. but we will have to figure that out in a later time. But actually, they ward up the entire red side of the jungle, but they do not, continue with their invade. So Mumu's going to be able to take out his blue buff, and Malphite also is going to get help on his own. So we'll see where they move from here. Will Amumu try to go for that early counter jungling to the red? Of course, they have a lot of defensive wards already lined up there.
Yeah, and both teams are just working on their blues right now. But yeah, those early wards on that enemy jungle and retreating to your own jungle is indicative of. They probably want to try something with those wards, maybe trying to see if they can catch out Malphite in his own jungle with Amumu going to the red. But he looks like he's moving towards his own red, so that he's just going to go in his own route without trying to go for an aggressive move. And it looks like the bottom Tribush ward was the Explorer's ward because it just ran out.
Right, and I actually just backtracked to find that out, and of course it's gone, so no extra information. But of course Nami will be down in that bottom lane. We'll be able to refresh that ward, and they have sight on Malphite, so a little early advantage. Know exactly what he's going to be doing there. A nice thing for Amumu was he did get that smiteless pull at blue, which means he's going to be able to use that on red and be a little bit ahead of this Malphite for the early jungling battle. Malphite, of course, going to go to those double golems first, then probably head back towards red once he has that smite back up in 20 seconds.
Yep, Mumu going in for a gank. The ward is there, but Olaf is just going to stay around. The taunt misses, and Olaf is just running back. Mumu, is he going to be able to get that bandage toss off? He does get that stun, does a lot of damage to him, but he just runs away, and he's just fine.
Yeah, I mean, that ghost obviously saved him this time, but he's not going to have that up the next time Mumu comes around. So he has to play a little bit more defensively, and as we mentioned before, he's ruined for massive aggression and massive penetration. So we'll see if that really changes how he approaches this lane, but his lane is actually pushing towards Shen, and that's not a great thing for him, because that will mean Amumu can come back up and perhaps get a successful gank in. There is a ward coverage, but we didn't see him respond incredibly fast last time. And once again, he is going to be caught a little bit out of position and not backing out immediately, but he is backing out.
Yeah, he does back out, and I think Amumu knows that Olaf knows, so he's just going to run away and go back to his own jungle.
Yeah, if he had just gone straight towards Olaf, he might have had success there in the gank, because of course they do have some decent CC lining up, and they're going to try again. I'mTheKid running in there after that Olaf.
Oh, that bandage touch does land, and he's able to get some damage, but Shen was not following up. He was just farming his own minions, so just going to force him to back off a little bit before leaving.
Yeah, and it looks like Malphite's like, okay, I'm a little tired of you guys camping my Olaf in that top lane, so he's heading on up there, but taking an interesting route, perhaps just a defensive positioning, hoping that Amumu doesn't come once again to gank. But Olaf doing a really good job fending off those ganks and, continuing to put the aggression on the lane. He is a couple CS down, but certainly after 2 attempted ganks, that's a pretty good result.
Yeah, it looks like Malphite is going for an in-lane gank. The wave is going to push back a little bit, allowing him to get access to this Shen. Shen is being very careful. He doesn't have a ward there, so he doesn't know what's going on for sure, but he is about half health, so we'll have to see if they decide to try to go for it. But Malphite is staying there for a while now. Olaf does get the slow on and does put some more damage on Shen, but Malphite doesn't really see much of a chance to go in yet.
I mean, they could potentially tower dive here. Shen is getting lower and lower. He does have no more potions left. He started with Cloth 5 and is out of potions, so Olaf really doing a lot of work there. And Shen is at a point where, one axe, double axe combo into Ignite is almost going to bring him down. If Malphite adds any additional damage there, it could be a pretty easy tower dive. So we'll see if they actually go for that. With Malphite staying up top for so long, I imagine he actually will do that. Otherwise, it's a lot of wasted time for him.
Yep, looks like they might wait for this wave to push back after the tower, but we'll see. Amumu is coming around. I don't know if they want to think about a counter gank here. Shen is pretty low, so he's just going to back off. He's a little bit scared, and he's just going to return, so it looks like Malphite isn't going to get a chance to get his gank off.
Yeah, so the jungler's really spending a lot of time top, but not much coming from it. We do see some aggression in middle as well, but all of the other lanes are very even. 30 to 33 minions in middle, Orianna a little bit behind Anivia, and down bottom 38 to 40 between Caitlyn and Ezreal. So very, very close in both lanes, you know, sustaining pretty well. Nami kind of the worst for wear out of all the champions on the board, but so far very, very even matchup. And I wonder what the first big move is going to be, because the junglers have been just camping top and nothing's gotten done there. It does look like Malphite going to do a little bit of... Oops.
Nami getting a little bit low. He does get some heal, but is forced to use some of that healing to get herself back up. But yeah, some good poke down at bottom lane by Microsoft.
Right, and both of these bottom, duos seem content to kind of sit in that lane for a while. They have good sustain. Nami, of course, actually still has that total biscuit of rejuvenation. I'm not sure how many procs she has left on her crystalline flask. He is getting poked down, but the thing I would worry about is they don't have very many ward coverages or wards left. Actually, they have no wards except that one in the back brush. So once that goes down, they're going to be flying completely blind. So they'll have to try to push up the wave and head back. But I don't know that the Kate Sona combination will let them do that, and of course, as I say that, Kate and Sona are content to head back themselves.
Yep, just pushing down a little bit before retreating, and looks like they're gonna go for these double golems while they're waiting for their wave to push back. Epic is just pushing this wave down. I think they think they've gone back to base, so they're just gonna try to push it to tower to make them waste minions. But it looks like Caitlyn might be able to get back just in time to get these minions.
Yep, indeed, and that was a kind of a neat strategy, because they got to pick up the gold from those double golems, obviously, and they get the lane in a safer position for them, especially when they don't have great coverage with their wards, and they know that Amumu and Orianna were missing from the map, and they should have been at their blue. You always know that the opposition will be generally going for their blue at around 7 minutes, 20 seconds. Obviously, we see they're a little bit late, a little bit tardy to get to their blue, but they're doing it now, and probably Sona and Caitlyn were a little bit afraid that a gank was coming down for them. It was not, but still, it's good to be careful.
Yep. So basically just going to go back and buy. We see a Sightstone being picked up by both supports, so they're going to have pretty good ward coverage in all likelihood.
Indeed, and we do see kind of a divergent path from those AD carries. We have Ezreal picking up Brutalizer and a longsword, and Caitlyn going for the straight BF sword. So both of them full aggression, but very different builds nonetheless. I don't know which you prefer. I think, just getting into lane straight away, it seems like Caitlyn would have a little bit more power, but that penetration from Ezreal and that cooldown reduction could be big.
Yep, Malphite looks like he's going to go top for another gank chance, and this time he does have his ultimate, so we'll see if he wants to dive it this time around, but...
oh my goodness, it's going to be exciting, because Amumu's heading up there too.
Amumu's coming up. The ward here in this tri-bush does not spot him. He's just going to sit in that bush, and actually they get that taunt. The ultimate comes out from Malphite to get a lot of damage on Shen. He does get away though with Amumu coming in with that Curse of the Sad Mummy, but the Ignite tick does help him get the kill. The Olaf manages to run away using his ultimate and Ghost to just get out of there with very low health. So first blood going to Microsoft with a good gank despite Amumu coming in for that counter gank. And it looks like Malphite is going to come down, try to catch Orianna. Orianna flashes over, but he's going to take a lot of damage from Anivia and does fall. Anivia gets very low and does have that egg. So I think she knew that she had that egg, so she went in very aggressively, willing to trade that and picking up another kill for Microsoft.
Yeah, so that is 2-0 for Microsoft. They're actually only 800 gold ahead, so that's not a huge disparity. We see good farming coming from Epic as well, but the positioning was really interesting mid, because that fight began with Anivia on purple side and Orianna being forced towards blue side, which really got her in a compromised position for when Malphite came down there. So really interesting choice for them to kind of swap sides there, thanks to just the the placement of their skills. And of course, it did turn out for the blue side. Turned out perfectly for Microsoft. 2-0 lead here, and things aren't looking terribly for Epic here, but they need to do something to kind of change the tides of battle. And I do like the bottom lane. There's a lot of aggression going on.
Coming out from Nami gets Sona, but they're able to just back off a little bit. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess that allowed them to prevent them from killing that ward here, but
But only momentarily.
Yeah, only momentarily. Amumu and Malphite are both coming down bot lane. Looks like they both have the same idea in bot lane as well. So we might see another battle come out. Ultimate coming out from Sona. And are we going to see the Malphite come in? Wait, no, he does not have his ultimate yet. And Amumu does go in as well. So we see a lot of damage. Ezreal taking out the Caitlyn. Sona getting really low, but is able to get back. And Ezreal does pick up that double kill. So Mumu this time able to get revenge on the Malphite.
Yeah, that was a crazy set of circumstances. The one thing there that really changed the fight around, it seemed like it would be a relatively easy disengage for Microsoft, but Caitlyn actually 90 caliber net back into the battle, and that led to her demise, and then a terrible fight, and the first dragon actually going towards Epic there. So
and Sona here just getting caught out by this Ezreal, just not in a great position, and dies easily to Ezreal. So a pretty big swing in favor of Epic, but the gold lead is still only 200. So I mean, not a very big difference despite getting that extra kill and that dragon.
Yeah, of course, Olaf did get that top lane turret at the same time and put a lot of pressure on Shen just a moment ago. We see him building Giant's build after that Ruby Crystal, which means he'll probably be going the traditional Warmogs route as opposed to a more aggressive Black Cleaver build. But he's doing plenty of damage to keep a lot of pressure on that top lane, and we'll see if that pays off as the game goes later. I mean, clearly that bottom fight was swung by that.
Over here, ultimate coming out from Malphite is going to get that stun from Anivia too, and a lot of damage going on and on Orianna and that wall, helping to seal the kill. A great gank to even the score at 3-3.
Yeah, there was really very little Orianna could do at that point in time. After getting ultimated by that Malphite, she was just stun locked for the remainder of the battle, and could have perhaps escaped if she had flash, but it would have been a narrow escape even with that utility up. Really good show, 3-3, very, very close, 200 gold, 100 gold separating these teams. So it seems like now it's going to come down to who has the better late-game teamfight presence, and who would you bet on for that, Zero?
Right now, it could actually go either way, depending on which one gets the initiative, basically, because they both have abilities and ultimates that are very powerful, with like a Mumu, like a Malphite. So, I mean, it could go either way, in my opinion.
Yeah, it certainly can. We do see Ezreal pulling slightly ahead of this Caitlyn, and a big factor is all 3 kills have gone to Ezreal. Not only has all 3 kills gone to him, but he's picked up an early BF sword to complement that Brutalizer, and he has double buffs right now. So he is sitting very pretty in this lane, and Caitlyn probably not incredibly happy to be facing off against him.
Yeah, and Ezreal with double buffs is one of the scariest things because that Q can proc the red buff too. So, and he can, with that blue buff, can shoot that out all the time. But as I say that, he loses that double buffs. But yeah, I mean, and Ezreal with the double buffs is quite scary, despite him losing it right now. Mumu is sitting in this bush, but this ward sees Mumu, so that looks like Microsoft is just going to play it really safe. They know he's there, and Mumu is probably just going to back off as he does.
Right, and being on blue side is really nice because they have the opportunity to go back and take out those double golems. They're not deciding to do so now. They're just going to wait for this lane to push towards them. But had they, been zoned out for longer, they could have just backed off and picked up a little bit of gold that way.
Yep, Malphite gonna go over, take these double golems. I thought he was gonna maybe go in for a lane gank here, but it looks like he's just gonna be connecting with the double golems. Maybe wants to gank after that, but right now Mumu maybe gonna go towards mid. He does. He hits that bush and is seen by that ward. So Anivia knows exactly where he is. Mumu just gonna back off for right now.
Anivia, of course, sitting pretty, 101, and does have that egg back up, so not incredibly frightened. Ooh, bottom.
Ooh, we see Malphite indeed coming out with the gank, but the ultimate from Nami helps them to disengage. So, yep, not too much action despite the gank. And we see maybe something happening over in the jungle. Olaf maybe wants to try to get a steal, but with 3 members of Epic there, I don't think they want to try anything.
Yeah, they scared Olaf away, but Anivia got some free farm middle and a lot of, a decent amount of damage on that middle turret, and Orianna lost out on some farm there. So unfortunate for her, but good response from the entire team to make sure Olaf couldn't do anything too drastic in the enemy jungle.
Mumu coming in for a chance at a gank, but Olaf is there as well, following him, and just kind of scares him away.
Yeah, and because of, the forced aggression in that middle lane and Olaf roaming around the map, Anivia now has a 30 CS lead up on Orianna, and Orianna has those 2 kills, or 2 deaths rather, under her belt. So while bottom's going incredibly well for Epic, the middle lane is, going more and more in favor of Microsoft as this match goes on.
Yep, and as you mentioned, we see Caitlyn and Sona doing these double golems and taking them for themselves.
Right, and those will show up in the creep scores as more than 2 creeps, but they do grant a little extra gold, and we'll check out the gold for the competing AD carries. It's 4,400 for Caitlyn at the moment, while Ezreal's sitting on 5,600. So that's actually a pretty big gap thanks to those 3 kills, 1,200 gold overall.
So there's the gold, and yeah. So right now, not too much action going on. Just both teams kind of posturing more than actually doing anything. More than actually engaging much. The dragon, when is the dragon up next? I think it is 17:17, so it should be up in about a minute.
Yep, that is correct, and that'll probably be where we see the next big fight. Of course, Shen still has his ultimate, hasn't used it since that bottom fight, so that is utility that they are saving up, that Epic has in their back pocket, and then they can use certainly to force on this next dragon fight. And we'll have to see, does Olaf head down there right now? He has head back. If he heads up back up top, it's going to be kind of wasted effort if there is an immediate dragon fight. But we see both of the AD carries going with incredibly aggressive builds. Looks like Caitlyn's going to rush that Infinity Edge, and it looks like Ezreal might be heading towards the same final build after picking up that that Brutalizer.
Yep, and Mumu is down at bot lane. Looked like they both kind of grouped around Dragon, kind of preparing for Dragon a little bit, putting a pink ward there. They're actually going to move up. Nami is going to put a ward in that bush to give themselves more vision, but Mumu is going to sit in this bush, actually going to catch Sona with that advantage toss and going to get that ultimate out, and that's going to do so much damage and destroys Sona so quickly. Now they're going to be able to kind of move into position for Dragon without fearing Sona being there, and Dragon does spawn right now. Orianna is going to come down for it. Malphite is there as well, and we'll see if he tries to use his ultimate to go in and try to steal this Dragon.
It would be a very dangerous move. Obviously, Shen can ultimate down there and help out Team Epic, but, Epic did waste 2 ultimates on only Sona, so they do have that to worry about.
Malphite does go in with that ultimate, but is a little bit too late. He's taking a lot of damage. He's trying to get away, though, and he might be able to. He is still going. That ice ball from Anivia helping him out so much. And actually, Mumu getting caught out a little bit, and is forcing Shen to use his ultimate to save his life. Maybe not necessary, but he does make Shen waste the ultimate there.
Yeah, I mean, they secured the dragon, so that's a good point. It's kind of surprising that Malphite was able to get away, but there wasn't a lot of CC left over for Team Epic there to use. And now we're seeing actually a counter push here. They're like, oh, we lost Dragon, but we want to take down this middle turret. There's already half down, and I always love that that strategy, but now is not an ideal time. Anivia is already almost out of mana. Malphite, likewise, kind of half out of mana, half out of life. Not in the greatest of positions here to make a push, and yet they're going to continue on it anyways. It just seems to me it might be ill-fated.
Yeah, Caitlyn is pretty good at taking down towers, so maybe they want to try to take it down quickly, but she's not getting very many shots at it. Gets a couple shots off before they're just forced to back off, and that's exactly what they do.
Yeah, they don't seem to be dispersing though, so they could come back to this in this next wave. Of course, waiting those 30 seconds for the minion waves to push on up. But at the same time, Anivia probably wants to continue getting that farm and doesn't have any more mana outside of the ability to just use that ultimate to clear out the wave and pick up the CS. So it looks like the whole team will back off. And Olaf didn't really get any appreciable amount of damage on that top lane. So overall, that fight certainly went to Epic, just being able to pick up that dragon free and clear after killing that Sona.
Yep, so looks like Epic has about a 1.5 gold, 1,000 gold lead, not 1.5 gold. But so they do have a decent advantage here, not too significant, but we'll see if they are able to kind of use that to maybe snowball this game a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you don't need huge leads to make plays, and they're at a point in the game where they can start making plays if they'd like. One thing they certainly want to wait on is the Shen ultimate. That is a huge utility that they can, use to their advantage when the time comes. But right now, bottom lane pushing pretty strong, pretty fast. They are going to get collapsed on by 3 people, but will they take? They do take that turret first. So. Yep,
and Ezreal is going to have to try to get away fast enough. He does get hit by that ultimate from Malphite. Despite trying to arcane shift away, and that bubble helping Ezreal to get away. And the flash coming out from Malphite, very aggressive, but a counter flash from Ezreal is able to help him get out.
Yeah, so really, good aggression by Malphite, forcing that flash out of Ezreal, but of course he used his own ultimate and his own flash. One thing that's, interesting to note is how much damage Malphite did on his own to Ezreal. So that's something that's going to be a factor all throughout this game. And I did mention earlier, Ezreal looking to build that Infinity Edge, but in fact went for the Bloodthirster, and now seems to be going for a Last Whisper. That will likely be his next build here, as he has the components for it and is just waiting to combine. Whereas Caitlyn does have that Infinity Edge, but really needs a Phantom Dancer or a Static Shiv to really complement that, so she can put out a lot of damage.
Yep, so we're really kind of getting out of laning phase now. We'll see if these teams try to group up and maybe push down some towers now. Microsoft has 2 towers down, so that is helping them to not be so far behind despite losing that dragon and despite being down a kill.
Yeah, it does certainly help. One thing that's interesting is the itemization coming from the jungle. We see a Glacial Shroud on Malphite, which is great, probably going to build into a later game Frozen Heart, which certainly helps shut down, the enemy AD carry, and that's really the only person that's going to worry about it over much. Whereas Amumu has picked up the Aegis of the Legion, so he's already granting his team a really good aura, but his next item could be a number of things, but with the components, it's most likely to be a Haunting Guise, so he certainly could go for a Reverie or finish off that Aegis of Legion and turn it into a Runic Bulwark, but right now he has that Ruby Crystal and Amplifying Tome, which are the components for a Haunting Guise, and which, is favored by a lot of Mummy jungles, because they have good AP magic damage, and you kind of want to focus over on penetration as opposed to AP, just because of his ratios being a little bit lower and his base numbers being high.
Yep, so it looked like Epic wanted to do a little bit of push at middle, but Nivea with a great wave clear fended them off pretty easily, and now it looks like they're just kind of moving around, farming a little bit. Nivea's coming down to bot lane, and it looks like they're going to try to push down this bot lane with Caitlyn and Nivea.
Yeah, I like their strategy because that's where their team excels, poke and pushing, and of course defending towers as well. But they do have to worry about that Shen, because he can get into that fight at any time here. Oh my goodness, and Caitlyn having to burn that flash.
Yep, she does flash away, and the wall from Nivea helping them to just get away. They're really scared right here, so they're just going to back off to this tower. There's a 4-person push going down. Oriana is just going to back off, and the ward coming out from Nami to get that pink ward before it dies, and she does grab it.
Yeah, I feel at this point, Epic has a huge advantage thanks to Ezreal having 194 CS, 4-0. He has a Bloodthirster, a Last Whisper, and a Brutalizer, so that is a lot of penetration. But no one outside of Malphite is really building a lot of armor on the enemy team. Olaf is going for the straight health build. He has 1 more Mog's armor, and he has, looks like he's building components for another one. So he could certainly do that. We might see something more standard like a Sunfire or Randuin's come out. But right now, Olaf is just building straight health tank, which is probably a good strategy against an Ezreal who has so much penetration.
Yeah, and on the other hand, we have Caitlyn with that Infinity Edge, so she's going to be doing a lot of damage as well.
And now we're like having sort of a Mexican standoff in the middle here. It's 4 against 4, but of course Shen can get there instantaneously. Caitlyn's happy to push down bottom, going to get some farm on her own. She's going to have to back out because the enemy team is heading down there, and Dragon is back up. But, on one hand, Epic really wants to take advantage of this, and I think they have this dragon mainly for free. I think this is going to be a dragon that they can just poke and eventually stall out for, but they are going to have a hard time really poking down turrets.
Amumu going in with that ultimate, but that Nivea wall preventing the rest of his team from going in there. Looks like Olaf is going to go after that Ezreal, but they're going to back off and try to finish off the fight near their carries. The Nivea egg does get popped. Olaf does finally die, and Caitlyn is trying to do a lot of damage to them, but Shen is so tanky and is able to go in there and not take that much damage. So that is 2 kills for nothing and a dragon in favor of Epic.
Yeah, and that was a really good unstoppable force coming from Bertrand Reynolds as well. It got the 3 members in the back line of Epic, but really it was just a function of Shen and Amumu being so tanky that they were not going down to the back line of Microsoft. Caitlyn just really hasn't reached that critical mass yet where she has the Phantom Dancer and the Infinity Edge and can really just burst down and tear through tanks. So, for these next couple of fights, before she gets those next couple of items, it's going to be really, really hard for her to deal with the back line of Amumu and Shen.
Yep, Nivea's going to try to defend this tower, but she's having a tough time. She does not have that egg anymore, so she has to be a little bit more careful than usual, and she's not going to be able to do anything about this as the mid tower does fall.
Yeah, and she has very little to no mana. She's going to have to go back and then secure the blue buff eventually. Something you certainly want to have going to the Nivea time and time again, because it is so hard to push against the Nivea with blue buff. So that is one thing Microsoft certainly has going for them. While they might, not really like their chances in these team fights right now, as we just witnessed that team fight went incredibly against their favor, they can stall out the game, wait for Caitlyn to get more items, and once you get 6 items on a Caitlyn, she's going to be really, really devastating, and from an incredibly safe range. Unfortunately, we had a quick disconnect, but Ezreal is back in the game.
Yep, so disconnecting and reconnecting almost immediately, so and it was basically a lull in the game a little bit, so no real harm done there. Ezreal is back in, and since he has moved off the main platform, looks like he is indeed there. Oh, well, he has left again, so we'll see. A pause does go down.
A summoner has reconnected.
Yep. So we'll see if they can get this figured out before we get this game started again.
Yeah, so we just got a good taste of what happened in that last team fight, and then we just, how does Microsoft really change the flow of the game from this way forward outside of, just hoping Ezreal stays disconnected?
Well, it was a pretty good. They both had very good ultimates. As you said, Anivia did a good job with her wall. Malphite had a pretty good unstoppable force. I think they just really need to have Caitlyn able to take down those tanks, because that was just the main place where they weren't able to do well, because those tanks were able to get there, not take in too much damage from Caitlyn, and were just able to wreak havoc on the carries.
And we see kind of an unusual build coming out from Caitlyn, a Infinity Edge and a Bloodthirster, but no Berserker Greaves, no Phantom Dancer, not even a Zeal to complement those, pure AD items. So you certainly want to get a little bit more critical strike added, a lot more attack speed added to that build, so she can really start putting out more damage per second. With Ezreal, it's a little bit different, because of course you can build up your passive and get a 50% attack speed, and you're so focused on using your Mystic Shot and your abilities to supplement your damage. But Caitlyn doesn't really have that same potential in team fights. Yes, she does have AD scaling abilities, but you don't really want to be shooting out your abilities throughout the course of a team fight, because they make you more static and easier to catch up to. So while I think that build is particularly good when you run it with a Nunu, because he's giving you that extra 65% attack speed, I really feel like her build is lacking at this point, and she would certainly be much better off building some attack speed, and I imagine she'll focus that going into the future. But is it going to be too late, I guess, is my concern.
Yeah, so her attack speed really isn't that fast compared to Ezreal's. Ezreal can go up to, I think, something maybe about 1.4 right now with the stacks of his passive, and while Caitlyn can only go up to about 1, and that is going to be a big difference. Caitlyn is likely going to be doing more damage with that Infinity Edge and that Bloodthirster, but it's probably going to be a lot less damage in general. Ezreal actually shooting out that Mystic Shot to Baron and taking some damage, but he's going to be able to get that back up with that Bloodthirster.
Yeah, certainly. Lots of sustain on him, and he's doing pretty well for himself. Has a lot of AD. They do take out that top turret thanks to a lot of minions, and now it looks like the teams are ready to do the Baron dance, which is always an exciting part of the game when the team focus around that area. But of course, Epic has a big advantage. They can send Shen bottom and just have him continue pushing bottom while they dance around the Baron. So we'll see if they take advantage of that, or whether they want to head back to town, buy up some extra items. I don't know if anyone has a particularly large amount of gold in store. They don't, but everyone on...
Well, actually, the stun coming down on the Ezreal, but he does manage to get out of the unstoppable force, but he does die very quickly. Looks like a lot of damage going down on the members of Microsoft, though, and they're going to fall very low, but they do get enough damage to take down Nami and Orianna, so they are able to clean up this fight a little bit. Sona able to get away with very little health, as is Malphite. So they did a very good job of catching that Ezreal, and after he died, the tide turned in their favor, despite Nami being on the other team.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Microsoft really doing a good job capitalizing on that mistake made by Ezreal. And, you know, the problem, I mean, it's a great thing when your AD carry has all the kills on your team. Of course, he was 4-0 and had, you know, 4 of the 6 kills for his team. But it's a terrible thing if you get instantly erased from the team fight, as Ezreal did in that case. So they give up a near ace and a turret there, and really it could have very nearly been a Baron as well. Of course, Microsoft did not decide to go that route, but now they're going to feel more confident coming into this next battle, and Caitlyn picks up Berserker Greaves and a Zeal. So suddenly she just got much more scary, adding that critical strike and that attack speed into her build. She is going to be a devastating player as this game moves on.
Yeah, and one other thing is that Shen never got there because Ezreal died so quickly. He used his ult for Ezreal, but you know, it was too late because Ezreal was just bursted down so fast.
Yeah, and I thought he was going to be okay because he did, I believe, flash out of the unstoppable force, but then he got caught by a Sona crescendo. So really, just things not going well for him, and he is building up towards that static shiv, and that's going to be a great item for him as far as damage is concerned. But another thing I always look at from AD carries is which AD carry has the luxury of building a defensive item first. So going forward, neither AD carry is making any motion towards a defensive item, but that might swing the game. Whichever one can pick up a Guardian Angel, be that much harder to kill, and you know, perhaps proc that passive in a team fight, could spell the difference.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, so far they're going for basically the very offensive builds. Ezreal does have that Static Shiv on him, so he's going to be doing a lot of damage. Static Shiv, one of the new items, which has been seen sometimes on AD carries, although I haven't seen it as much. So I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen that Static Shiv in action as much, so I don't know how much about it.
I mean, it's very similar to Phantom Dancer in terms of, you know, damage output. It doesn't give you quite as much, but gives you a little bit of an AoE bonus, and of course you can build it through Avarice Blade, which means you can make money stacking that up. Of course, as we saw in this build, you know, Ezreal didn't hold on to that Avarice Blade for very long, didn't take big advantage of the GP10 nature of it, and now we're seeing the Baron Dance, but this is going to be a serious Baron Dance in the sense that Malphite has picked up an Oracle, and really the map presence, the awareness around Baron from Microsoft is dominating thanks to that Oracle.
Yeah, and I mean, in the previous Baron Dance, it kind of looked like Microsoft was trying to prevent Epic from getting the Baron and maybe engaging a fight if it was beneficial for them. But this time, it's a more offensive Baron Dance where they're trying to, you know, clear the Baron out and maybe have a chance to do it themselves. And they go down to maybe try for the Dragon, but Epic sees that and decides to try to go for this Baron by themselves. Shen is down at bot pushing while his team is there. They peel off Baron when Microsoft comes up, so they're gonna have to. They're a little bit split. Ezreal is over here at the blue side, and he's going to have to get back to his teammates, but yeah, they're not there, and Olaf is going there, forcing the flash from Nami, does get the slow on her, is going to try to get a lot of damage on her, the ultimate from Caitlyn going out to Orianna, and she's going to be a little bit late getting there, so but neither team has an AD carry until now, but Caitlyn does get damaged really a lot, and does get bursted down, so Ezreal does come back in and is going to do a lot of damage, but he too is taken down very quickly with the combination of Olaf and Malphite. Olaf now chasing down Nami is going to, Shen is helping her but does fall eventually, and now Shen is going to chase down this Olaf and take him down. Now it's going to be Shen versus Sona. Sona is trying to get out of there as quickly as she can, popping that Shurelya's, but is going to fall. So that is a 5-for-4 trade in a very frantic fight.
Yeah, that was a crazy fight in the sense that, you know, Ezreal was trying to go back, had, you know, pretty terrible positioning, but then he came back into the battle and it looked like, oh, things might turn around because they weren't able to, you know, kill his team off while he wasn't even there, but then he shows up and almost gets instantly burst down. Of course, Caitlyn got burst down relatively quick as well, and like I mentioned before, it might just be about who gets the GA first, because, you know, there's a lot to be said for good positioning in team fights, but sometimes you just can't avoid the enemy, especially when they're an Olaf and they're a Malphite and they have so much range to get towards you, and so much capability of being unkiteable in Olaf's case, that you really just have to have a little bit of defense built into your build. But as I say that, of course, neither of the AD carries are building any of that, so they're going to rely on their positioning, and, you know, hope that, next fight they're able to stay alive a little bit longer. Of course, Shen and Olaf coming out of that battle with a couple kills for each of them. Now Olaf is 6-2 and Shen is 4-1, so they are both very rich, very tanky, and able to put the hurt on the opposing AD carries.
Yep. Once Epic gets back up, they go immediately to Dragon and are able to take it very quickly. So that does give them a little bit of a boost in gold. We saw also Shen taking that blue buff after he was the only one left on the map, and that is going to hurt Anivia because she is not going to have that blue buff in the next fight.
Yeah, that is huge to take away from Anivia, and we see Epic coming back into the game with really a lot more confidence. Obviously, Microsoft was kind of pushing them around, had picked up that Oracle, was, kind of looking for a fight, did pick a fight, it just didn't go, as well as they had hoped, and now Amumu is the one with the Oracle picked up, so they kind of have the map presence advantage. They haven't really used it to clear out Baron yet, as both teams do have sight of Baron, and they may decide to wait on Shen's ultimate, which is going to be up momentarily, but certainly Epic has the advantage to really, move forward, take down those wards, and take control of that area.
Yep, and it looks like we just have a pink ward at Baron for Microsoft, and they have somewhat of an upper hand here. They're in a good position right now, preventing Epic from getting anywhere near that Baron, so Epic hasn't had a chance to clear out that Baron or even get very close to it yet.
And they're kind of making an interesting move. They're just rushing up middle. They want to force a fight away from Baron, which is a good idea. Never let, Amumu make use of that Oracle and clear it out. And they're actually...
Oh, actually, the ultimate coming out from Malphite is going to catch Orianna. She does use her Zhonya's, but she's going to flash over, and that is going to be a dead Anivia. And then Amumu falls as well. Now, looks like Microsoft is trying to peel out a little bit. Olaf does fall as well. So Ezreal picking up a triple kill there. Caitlyn and Sona trying to get out of there, and that could be a Baron for Epic.
Yeah, that was a big fight for them. 1 for 3. Essentially, Orianna flashed over that wall. Shen ulted her, so it wasn't ideal because Shen wasn't in a great position, but everyone focused down on Amumu while, Ezreal got to shoot over the wall, while Orianna got to DPS over the wall there from the safety of their base. So that leads to a 3-1 kill advantage, and that is a free Baron. And so this game that has been close all throughout has just kind of pulled, very far ahead in Epic's favor. Picking up that Baron, has a 6,000 gold lead, and they're going to have a few minutes to do what they will. The one thing against them is, of course, they're up against an Anivia. So will they be able to make this Baron buff count? Will they actually be able to, force something to happen? Will they be able to take down some turrets and really make that Baron worthwhile?
Yeah, I mean, and as you said, the key things were that Ezreal, when they were retreating back, Ezreal was able to blink over to the other side of the wall earlier so that he could be on that side and be safe. And Orianna, after getting caught out by Malphite a little bit, was able to use Zhonya's and then flash over, so she could keep on dishing out damage from the safety behind the walls.
Yeah, certainly. It's always a great thing when, your DPS can just, sit back there and DPS without really any worry of anyone jumping over the wall, because, of course, Malphite had already used his ultimate, and Olaf has really no way of blinking over walls. He can run around him, and he can run fast with Ghost, but he's not going to get over there immediately. And so even when Shen did teleport in and he was stuck on the wrong side of the wall, he used his flash and then used his taunt into the group and really, came out ahead for his team. And we do see Ezreal, having a really good team fight there, I believe picking up 3 kills, and now he has a Guardian's Angel to add to his repertoire of items. So certainly I was mentioned, it might be about who gets the first defensive item. Well, now he has a defensive item and a Baron buff. He's wearing both very proudly.
Yep, and it looks like Caitlyn's next item isn't going to be a Guardian Angel either, so she's probably going to go for that last whisper before going for that defensive item. So, I mean, it might be if Epic can just burst down Caitlyn, they will be able to take these team fights quite handily.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to get to Caitlyn, and I think Caitlyn's probably banking on that fact. Caitlyn can sit further back than any other AD carry outside of Kog'Maw and Tristana late game, and really just be safe, but...
Yeah, actually, Amumu going in, using that bandage toss, isn't going to commit to anything, though, as the rest of his team wasn't exactly in the best position, but Caitlyn was a little bit scared there, using that net to get out.
Yeah. Epic has top wave pushing, but bottom wave is not necessarily pushing. It looks like they're doing a little bit of tanking on the turret, which is an interesting strategy and a good one, especially when you're going against Anivia, because she can clear out those minions so easily. But if you get some free damage on there before the minions are in place, especially if you're a Shen or a Mumu or someone incredibly tanky who also has that Baron regen, Shen's back up to full life and the tower's down to half health. So a really good exchange there. And now top lane is pushing rather mercilessly. So if Epic just keeps pressure on the other lanes, they might get that top lane for free just by nature of those minions.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Most of the team is pushing down mid. Actually, they're going to go to actually grab this blue, I think, to prevent Anivia from getting it. And then Shen is going to push bot. So actually, Shen is going to actually not push, just going to go back up towards mid. Olaf went down to meet him, and he's going to go towards mid to help push that. So they're all just kind of rotating a little bit. And it looks like Shen might actually join the rest of his team despite having that global presence.
I mean, it seemed like they had an advantage, with that split push there, but they are grouping up, and they do have, a slight advantage because Olaf is not in place, Anivia is not in place, so they can, put a little bit of damage on the turret. And once again, Shen's just tanking it, but he's taking no damage thanks to the fact that he's building, Warmogs into Sunfire, has a Doran, Shield, Ninja Tabi, but he does have that Trinity Force to make sure he does extra damage, and that's kind of a staple of the M5 Darien build. But certainly it makes him relevant and only costs 1 slot for a lot of offensive stats for Shen, despite the fact that, it gives him some useless mana.
Yep, they back off a little bit. They're going to wait here. I think they might want to try to catch Microsoft in their own jungle, but they're just kind of playing really safe, so looks like no action is going to happen. Shen actually went back, is going to try to split push bottom a little bit more, and Mumu going in once again, scaring that Caitlyn away, and they're just going to push top while Shen split pushes bottom.
And this tower is going down pretty quick. Ezreal might decide to just take it out, but does actually have to back out. It's incredibly low. Shen, of course, going to do some work bottom lane, can jump in at any time. We did see Caitlyn doing a ton of damage to that Amumu, and Amumu is not very tanky. He has Runic Bulwark, but that's mainly a defensive, magic defensive item. He has a giant spell that's health, that's really good. But besides that, he's just built penetration, so he's not incredibly tanky. He's not, certainly nowhere near the level of Shen. So he has to be careful that Caitlyn doesn't blow him up really quick. And it looks like, once again, Microsoft trying to put on the aggression. Like, they have to do something to stop this Shen split push, and it looks like they want to force a fight.
Yeah, and I mean, Epic does not have that Baron buff anymore, but they're still able to just play this game, just to push down top. Amumu going in once again, the ultimate coming out from Orianna and Amumu. Shen coming in with his ultimate as well, and it looks like the team is splitting. The fight is splitting up into 2 parts as they both try to go for their carries. And yeah, the turret does go down. Nobody has died yet, and the Microsoft is just trying to retreat a little bit. Malphite actually getting an ultimate in there before walking away, and the blink by Ezreal, meaning Orianna takes that damage, and I think Ezreal might have been more fit to take that damage than Orianna, but yeah, I mean...
There's some armor, he has lifesteal, and I think he also got the command protect from Orianna, so Orianna really not too happy about that, but at the same time, no harm done. They got the turret, but I think they really should have wanted a lot more from that. What they do have is all their buffs up in the jungle, and they can really regroup and perhaps push down another turret. But really, 1 turret from a Baron and having a pretty dominant teamfight presence before that Baron is not that much. So Microsoft doing a good job stalling out the game, really making Epic work for it. Even though Epic has taken the early lead, taken the first Baron, had pretty good control of the last couple of dragons, they are not able to make much progress, and they have that 1 inner turret down, but no inhibitor turrets down, no inhibitors down, of course, and that could spell doom to them. We do see Caitlyn picking up that last Whisper, and it looks like a null magic mantle, which will probably be built into a GA in a little bit, but of course doesn't have that right now, and we have seen Ezreal complete his, essentially his 6-item build while picking up that Black Cleaver.
Yep, and that is going to give him so much penetration. He's going to be doing a ton of damage, both with his Mystic Shot and with his auto attacks, mainly with his auto attacks. But yeah, I don't exactly know when the Baron is up. It should be 42:33, I believe, so it should be up in about 10 seconds. 10, 20 seconds, 15 seconds, around there.
Yeah, Shen's bottom, but he doesn't have his ultimate. I always see this. Like, Shen's are like, oh, I'm going to split push, but Baron is up, in 10 seconds, 5 seconds now, and he won't have his ultimate for some time now. So certainly it's a point in time for 30 seconds. Microsoft could force something, but they're just not going to be able to do it. They don't have the confidence to do it, and that makes sense. They haven't won the last couple of fights, but they are... they have good builds all across the board. Anivia, Deathcap, Rod of Ages, Void Staff, Caitlyn, full offensive build, only is waiting on that Guardian Angel, and Olaf is incredibly tanky as well. So certainly they have things going for them. They have a lot of auras on their team. They do have that Frozen Heart above and beyond the enemy team. So will that make the difference in this upcoming fight?
Oh, Olaf does use that shard, but then Ezreal just backing off with that Arcane Shift, and they're just going to back off. They're going to peel off of Baron, and it looks like Microsoft is just pushing down middle right now.
Yeah, they're just pushing down middle, but Shen just took the bottom turret, and now he's going to be forced to be reckoned with going towards that bottom turret. He, of course, has that Trinity Force, so he's doing some damage, and all that extra health is helping out his Kai Strike, too. So they might have to force, an engagement under this turret here, which is
yeah, which is exactly what Amumu does. He does go in, and Malphite getting dropped very low, as is Anivia. Both of them are very low. Anivia gets egged, and the tanks from Epic doing a great job staying alive, and Ezreal using that Guardian Angel to great effect, is able to finish off that Olaf despite dying once, and that is a great team fight for Epic, and they have all of their members alive while Microsoft has 4 members dead and chasing down Sona. And Sona looks like she might be able to get away, but we'll see if Bandage Toss comes off cooldown, and he does catch her. A great Bandage Toss, and Shen, is he going to dash in with that taunt? Does go in, but does not get the taunt off. Flash coming out from Sona, and yeah, they're just going to be content to let her go and push down these towers.
Yeah, I mean, I like this choice here, especially when you're going against an Anivia. You really want to pick up those inhibitors because they're incredibly hard to pick up. But there's also Baron available to them, which would be my general preference over getting the inhibitor, just because the enemy team could perhaps counter Baron, but they can't really counter inhibitor quite as well. But they are going to pick up this inhibitor that shall help them out, going into this later battle. And let's see, they have 10 seconds left on some of the carries, so they could potentially rush to Baron, and they might clear it. Let's see if that is what they're going for. It looks like they're backing out instead, so that's probably the safer choice, but they still do have to worry about a potential counter Baron here, and we'll see if Microsoft feels like running towards that.
Yeah, and the thing is, if they do decide to go for Baron, having that inhibitor down is helpful because it makes them less likely to go for that Baron because they have to push that wave back. I mean, the super minions aren't going to be there yet, so if they rush for it as they are doing right now, they're just going to check it. And are they going to do it? It looks like Orianna's just going to be there putting her ball out to try to check on them, but they do start going for that counter Baron. The rest of Epic is on their way to try to prevent it, but it's like Microsoft is trying to rush it. The wall coming out from Anivia to try to prevent them from going there, but the ultimate coming out from Ezreal, and they're going to get a lot of damage onto it. Oh, the Amumu Bandage Toss misses everything, so he's not able to go in to try to get a steal, so they do manage to get that counter Baron and then back off.
Yeah, certainly a good play there. I mean, it seemed like they weren't rushing towards it as fast as they could have, and so I thought they might back off. But at the same time, when you are a team, you rush towards, you win a team fight, you rush to take that inhibitor. If you're weak following that inhibitor, you have to go back to base, and it's, a good 20 seconds, 25 seconds before you can get back around to Baron. So we did see some of the members of Team Epic, lagging a little bit behind, and now, a free Baron, essentially, a lost team fight, a lost inhibitor for Microsoft, but now they have a Baron and the opportunity to push down, and that inhibitor, that middle inhibitor, is open because they lost that team fight while taking down that middle turret, and so now they have the opportunity to force another fight right down middle, and and this time they're going to have that Baron buff on all 5 members of their team, which is certainly huge and might just spell the difference.
Yeah, and they're going to be pushing down middle, so their mid inhibitor being down isn't going to be much of an issue because, I mean, there isn't going to be another lane pushing down very hard on them.
I love the aggression from Microsoft. Like, they've been down for the past, it feels like, 25 minutes, but they've been forcing a lot of these fights, and that's something you have to do against Shen, but at the same time, it's impressive that they're willing to.
Mumu coming in, he does not have his ultimate. Oh, no, he does have his ultimate. He did not use it, though. And a fight does break out, Mumu falling, Nivea falling very, very quickly, actually. And Mumu does finally pop his ultimate, catching 3 people in there, and a ton of damage going down to that back line of, front line of Malphite, actually. And Mumu and Olaf both fall. Now, it looks like almost a repeat of what happened before, except Caitlyn is still alive. The taunt going down on Caitlyn from Shen and is going to pick her off, and Sona once again is fleeing back to her base as the only one alive on our team.
Yeah, but this time, you know, they know the death timers have been extended even further. They have 4 people healthy, as opposed to the last fight they did have, I believe, all 5. But that inhibitor is down, and they might just push to win this. They certainly have 32 seconds on Anivia. They have the capability to do it. They have Shen to tank the turrets, and if Sona tries to step to them, tries to make them back off, she'll just be insta-gibbed as well. So there's really not too much left to do here. Microsoft, you know, put up a valiant effort there, but Caitlyn really just was out of position that entire fight, really scared of the Amumu, you know, using that ultimate on her, did that early flash, but then she couldn't really put on any damage, and a really great play from Orianna as well, using Zhonya's when Caitlyn used her ultimate to really, you know, discount all that damage as well. So that is game, and very well played by Epic.
Yep, so those team fights were quite exciting. This is a very team fight oriented game, with much of the action coming in those Dragon fights and in those Baron fights, and we saw a lot of great plays from both teams using their ultimates to great effect.
Yep, and Ezreal ending the game 11-2-6. Very impressive, full item build and upgraded boots. Shen, meanwhile, 6-1-13. Very, very good showing. Last item pickup is a Stinger. I like that. I want to see what he was going to build that into eventually, or if that was just kind of a pickup being like, oh, it's a great, you know, cost-effective item. I may as well pick it up now as we go into this last team fight, which it did turn out to be.
Yep, so that is all for now. I think... yeah, that's the only game we have. I was ZeroCardinality, casting here with Sotere, and have a good day, everyone.
Have a good one.